Thank you to our Conversation Liquidity patron for this episode, Matcha. Matcha aggregates 130 plus DEXs to get you amazing prices on over 5 million tokens. Swap for free, swap without gas, or swap across chains, all in one place. Matcha.xyz. Search, trade, done.
GM Farcaster. It is Thursday. I'm so confused on what day it is. May 9th. And you are here with Nounish Prof and Adrienne for 29 minutes of Farcaster news to start your day. And we will have a special guest in just a little bit chatting with us about an upcoming tower. And Brennan, who I know through Nouns, who has a amazing audio Twitter space-like thing, but so much better, called Tavern. And he has a special guest coming on later today. So we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. And we'll also talk about how Brennan has never watched the show. This will be the official first show he's ever watched.
Oh, that's awkward.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I 100% am making it awkward for him. I mean, like, let's be clear. And he knew when he knew when he asked that was going to happen. So we're going to have fun today. But before that, we've got like, I don't know, 7 zillion things to talk about. So let's get into that. I'm going to save this for later. We have hold on. That helps if I show it on the screen. A dev call coming up in, this is about like 10 hours ago. So maybe 4.5. I'm not sure. It says 14.5 hours from now, but I can't remember when exactly that was. Timestamps on here would be really helpful. 10 hours ago. So about 4.5 hours from now, there is a dev call.
I think the dev calls typically are at 10 a.m. Pacific.
That sounds about right. Programmable DCs and decentralized channels. So take a look there. And I do love this frame because it does give you the notes, calendar, the Zoom, the recordings. So if you can't make it and you are a dev, take a look there because you may need some information from this call if you're thinking about programmable direct casts. And then we had this from Dan. Warpcast is back online. I think I missed when it was down. Was it down yesterday?
It was down.
I totally missed that.
I was in the midst of casting. I was like sitting on my back patio at night, catching up on my
oh my God,
Farcaster chatter. And then I was in the middle of replying to Phil. And then it went down. I was like, oh, so
sorry,
about
Phil.
10 minutes.
That's funny. I totally missed it. So it's back up. It's back online, in case you didn't know. That was really funny. I was like, wait, it was down. And then this from Dan also. Can I say something without everyone getting mad? New Warpcast version is available. Restart. And my answer was, see, you do have a sense of humor, even though you said you didn't. So no matter what your brothers say, you have a sense of humor. So let's get into a little bit about what's been going on. I'm going to try to do this in some way that makes sense. Let's see. Farcaster must remove all bots. This is from V. This is a worrying line of thinking I'm seeing more often. The argument goes that it's not enough to hide uninteresting content. It must be removed from the protocol. That is, someone must judge the worthiness of accounts and delete them from the protocol. Ethereum does not judge the worthiness of your transaction. If you pay the fee, you can make it happen. Even email doesn't ban accounts. It only filters spam into a separate inbox. It is very important for credible neutrality that no one has the power to delete accounts that they do not like. No one likes spammy FC accounts. No one wants Zen to take up all of the block space on Ethereum. No one wants spam in their inbox, but the solution is not to have some arbiter who bans things at the protocol level that they do not like. The right solution is quality filters. Build tools that filter out content that is not interesting to you. Priority mode is our first step in this direction. It's not perfect, but it's much better than what came before, and we will keep improving it. What we will not do is start removing accounts from the protocol. This is dangerous and threatens credible neutrality of Farcaster. Be very wary of anyone who advocates for this. And this from Dan, whoops, not from Dan, from Barry. From Dan, people seem increasingly concerned about the term daily active users. This is related. It's used by other Web 2 social networks in SEC filings and now other decentralized social networks. We use Meta's definition below. Is there likely a better definition? Yes. Have we come up with a better methodology? Not yet. Farcaster social graph is permissionless. Anyone is able to come up with an alternative, better metric. You might even convince everyone else on Farcaster to use it. However, the casual observer on Twitter that sees a DAU comparison between various networks won't care about the nuance. Okay, and then there was from Baz. Just wanted to share some of my concerns about the public nature of our cast behavior in FC, hoping for an open dialogue where we think this is headed in the long run, how to provide privacy protections from a user content perspective. And I put these three together because they're all touching on sort of overlapping issues around basically content moderation, I guess I would put it, and how we determine what is, I just realized that my microphone is 5 million miles away from me. What is, this is probably better.
Oh, and I heard you loud and clear. Okay, content moderation, what's available, who can see it, how you communicate, and how to deal with it.
Right. How do we deal with it and how we calculate it as well? How we calculate users and accounts. So you had some thoughts. I have been like not wanting to touch the controversy. Like I have been pushing myself back away from it. I typed many things many times and then deleted them. So go ahead, Adrienne. Thoughts?
Well, yeah, I'm not going to, I did dip my toes into the data conversation yesterday. I want to read something from the Sufficiently Decentralized blog post that Varun wrote several years ago. Because I think, and he talked about sufficient decentralization, because a lot of the complaints all come out, and it's hard to kind of separate where is the complaint at the protocol, is the complaint at Warpcast, is it the client, is it the people? So a social network achieves sufficient decentralization if two users can find each other and communicate, even if the rest of the network wants to prevent it.
Okay.
So what this means is there's Farcaster, the protocol. And I agree vehemently with Varun about if you want a credibly neutral protocol, you really shouldn't be getting, like, there should be no arbiter. There should be no person judging who can communicate on the protocol.
Yeah, I think we get into dangers.
Someone who can do it.
Yeah, I think we get into dangers when we go down that path, because it's so subjective. If we start to go, okay, we're going to, this person's going to decide who gets banned, and this is like a lot of the criticism of Twitter, of past Twitter, right? So how do you content moderate in a way that's fair, that doesn't allow for the time tax? And I like that, like, thinking that Dan has talked about a lot of times. It's like it's a tax on my time to have things that are uninteresting in my replies or uninteresting in my feed. And how do we tackle that? And then, yeah, go ahead.
Well, right. It's got to be, I think it has to be handled at the client level, and we need many clients, and you need that healthy. The gripe right now is Warpcast is the biggest and only and baddest and most influential and only influential client we have. So it's very easy to point fingers and say, that there isn't credible neutrality now. I can't communicate outside of Warpcast, and there's validity to it, but we've talked about
just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time before another client is more popular, or in certain areas, or used for certain things. And we see all these clients being developed. We saw lots of them happening and getting big funding, getting big backing from Variant, Nook getting backing from Variant. Supercast has been doing fantastic. You've got 3 clients being developed by a channel in Nouns. So, and those are being, that has some significant funding behind it. So it's just a matter of time before we see some direction there, I think. And then on this other issue of the privacy concerns, I think this is interesting. Broadly speaking, there are 2 kinds of social networks. This is from V again. Twitter
public, Twitter, Reddit, and private, Facebook, Snapchat. In a private network, encryption matters a lot because what you're saying should only be seen by trusted friends. In a public network, it doesn't matter because the intent is for everyone to see it. And this was related to Baz.eth's post regarding private use of data versus public, et cetera. And I think, my understanding has always been that Warpcast is a public network, and that because it's on crypto rails, that it's going to be that way. So I would prefer it to be that way, frankly. I'm more for the open and transparent everything. So does that come with some challenges? Absolutely. But I don't know. For me, that's okay. So thoughts?
Honestly, too many. So, and Barry's post I thought was excellent. And it's actually related, but very different than the censorship conversation and the reach and the bots and the calculation and all that. So if you haven't, I know we're going to link it, but it's a short post. And I said, he almost asks more questions than answers, which is good. It's like a good way to start because it starts to make you think and ask questions. Yeah. So my plan today is to actually continue that conversation on the feed. In public.
So, and also, yes, we do put all these casts will be in our show notes. So if you're looking for something, there it will be. And then Cameron's take. I like casting. This was funny. I like casting. I agree. I like casting. I'm here casting. I don't need all the other, I get very uncomfortable with when it gets too controversial here. I think it's, what it is? It's the Twitter energy. I am not here for the Twitter energy. Please leave that over on Twitter is my feeling on that. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. Please leave that over on Twitter. In other controversy.
Yeah. And by the way, the live chat wants to talk about the other controversy because that's all they're talking about today.
I'm guessing you're talking about this.
That one.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm guessing you mean this. Okay, so let's start here. And we will, by the way, we're having a FarCon recap show at noon today, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. We will dig into this more. So I'm going to touch lightly on this. And then when we have the FarCon 2024 team with us, we'll touch on this more. But this was McBain. We officially release ourselves from all ownership of FarCon 2025 or beyond. It's yours now. We can't wait to see what you do with it. FarCon 2024 team.
He couldn't wait to he couldn't cast that soon enough.
Yeah. And and by the way, that was Grin and Cameron also as they were walking out the door of FarCon 2023. It's like, who's taking it next? Who's taking it next? I think before you are so excited to do this event and take this on, think carefully. As far, the teams weren't being paid. This was voluntary, labor, and it's a lot of it. And you also are wrangling a lot of people. There's a lot of expectations. Expectations are going to go up. So just understand what you're getting into, because I remember last year, Grin and Cameron both saying, maybe you should take this on, and me going, absolutely not. I do not have the bandwidth for that. And that was, my response to it. But what we have going on is a little battle between New York and Tokyo, and now Chicago is in the mix. And FarCon Tokyo has started up. The channel is live. FarCon New York, FarCon NYC is also up. And that particular crew is excited, and I think I forgot to grab Chicago. I apologize. I moved it to our chat for later today. But we've got 3 basically pretty great options, all trying to vie for the official. And okay, so my response was this: it's a decentralized protocol. We should have decentralized FarCons. Like, you can support more than one at this point. I don't expect that people on the other side of the world are always going to come to North America. I think that's unfair to tax that time, and vice versa. There's a 0.1% chance I'll go to Tokyo. There's a 99.9% chance I'll go to Chicago or New York. And that's just because of my life. It has nothing to do with the location at all. I think it will be lovely and amazing, and the team seems incredible, and I'm sure it'll be a fantastic event. It's just because of, you know, my personal ability to travel that far. So what do you think? And I haven't even looked in the chat. I'm kind of afraid.
Don't look at them.
What? So what are your thoughts on this? Are you going, are we doing a decentralized GM Farcaster? Would you go to Tokyo and I'd go to New York?
I mean,
which
you
would be
can
really
see my
funny
back.
in New York.
Everyone noticed my background.
She's picking her horse. There you go. I should have put my New York background up. I didn't even think about it.
Oh, Tokyo came to play in the chat today. It's like,
that's funny.
I love a good competition. Let's get ace. Let's get a pearl, Tokyo v New York.
There you go. But Chicago's going to be mad. In Chicago, I'm meaning Chicago.
Exactly.
She wants in this mix, which I don't blame her.
I love the decentralized permissionless, like FarCon's, you know, CC0. No one owns it. You can, do it. There was some interesting though, chatter both by, and I'm going to forget who it is because I didn't pull the name, but I know Grin wrote one and someone else who's organized things where it's like, you can kind of there is something really nice about kind of FarCon capital, letters being annual, being passed around, where learnings are kind of passed and there's like a common thread, and then maybe abilities for smaller ones that can happen with shorter planning cycles. Like the bigger FarCon gets, the more planning it's going to take, the more expensive it's going to be. But there's no way we want. I mean, what did Dan talk about at FarCon? Cozy corners.
Yeah.
You could barely find them at this one. So if we're going to need some cozy corner ones too. For me personally, I will go to Tokyo. I live in New York. I'll be here. I'll go to Chicago. But I just also love, we haven't even done the review on this one, and everyone's already talking about the next one. So to me the energy is really nice.
Yeah, that's a great sign. That's great energy. But also I actually disagree a little bit, because there's only so big that you want these to be, in my opinion. I don't want an ETH Denver size FarCon by any stretch. I think that it will be just too much. So I'd rather see multiple happening at the same time. Like, I loved that there was Faraway Con happening in London at the same time as FarCon. I think that worked fine. And I think we could do that as long as you have the resources. And that's what the individual teams need to figure out is, do you have the support in terms of funding to make this happen, and at what size? But I think actually having multiple that are smaller is probably going to be a easier lift than trying to do something that is really big. And others may disagree, and I can tell by your face, and I'm not looking at the chat, but you can then tie together things like some keynotes from Dan and Barun, no matter where they are. You can tie those in. We can use we're online, people. Like, we can get some of these things. We didn't really do it this time, but that can happen, where you have that remotely happening at the same time in multiple places. I think you're going to have to. This is too big of a global community now that you can't expect those in APAC to always fly to North America and vice versa. So I think that's just going to be a reality. In terms of individuals, no one's paying for us to go there too. We have to pay ourselves. So there's cost involved too, to think about that end of it. And also the travel, like to the other side of the world, All right. So we do have a guest, and I am going to preface this with a couple things before I bring him up here. I do want to mention that, yes, Brennan is a friend of mine from Nouns, and welcome, Brennan. And the big joke that happened at FarCon was he had no idea what GM Farcaster was, had never seen it. And by the way, these are people, like, this has happened with more than one person in Nouns. If you recall, also, you'll recall me talking about Wiz asking me if I was on Farcaster, like back in December. And I was like, listen, MFer,
I've been doing a show 3 days a week about Farcaster since September, and it was a very playful banter, by the way. So welcome, Brennan, and you were at FarCon, and it was great to see you there. And by the way, tabletop would not have been the same without you in two ways, because you and Nerd, I Speak Nerd was very gracious in thanking you at the event a couple of times. You did a lot of support for the event, sort of in the background by giving some funding for that. But also you brought your own board game. So Adrienne, I don't know if you know this, but Brennan actually creates board games. And there's one that he brought that we played that was awesome. And then
I heard about it.
Yeah. And then
it was so popular. I did hear about it.
Yeah. And then it was like, but you can't buy it until like next spring. 7 sales. It was so fun. I was like, I want to buy this. Where can I buy it, Brennan? Oh, you can't. I'm like, then why did you do this to me? Is what I wanted to like. Why? Like, just to torture us. It's like talking about.
Yeah, you can't buy it yet.
You can't buy it yet. So
just a couple more years. Just a few more years.
Oh my God, I want to buy it now. So welcome, Brennan. And how was your FarCon, by the way?
Yeah, it was really good. I think that was my first long-term stay in Venice, and that was really nice. I was pretty surprised. You hear people talk a lot about the issues with Venice, and honestly, I felt like those weren't really there. So yeah, it was really nice. And then like you said, the conference was really good. I think it felt small enough to feel intimate, right? But big enough to feel pretty hyped, as in it felt really cool to be there. I think if you were to scale, like you guys mentioned, that size everywhere, it could be really cool, where no one's missing the FOMO. Keynotes like from Dan and Varun are all distributed through, just streaming, and everyone just gets to watch the stream and have the Q&A live, everywhere, right? I think that's the right way to go. I know Ethereum tried to do that and hadn't really ever successfully done it. They were supposed to do it this year, or actually it was last year. That's why they took a year off, because the idea was to do simultaneous dev cons, because I've gone to every dev con. And so they still hadn't done it. So I think that is something hard. So, to get a whole bunch going all at once, obviously they're doing it from the Ethereum Foundation instead of from distributed groups of people who are just interested in putting them on. But yeah, it should be interesting to see what happens next year. Maybe Austin, maybe FarCon Austin will pop up.
Maybe. Well, actually, Adrienne and I were talking about potentially hosting an on-chain media summit, and Austin was one of the locations that I'm going to check out when I'm there later this month for Consensus.
Yes.
And the Nouns documentary premiere. So I'm excited about that. That's going to be a lot of fun. And it turns out.
Are we allowed to talk about that?
Yeah. Which thing? The thing I just mentioned. The thing I just mentioned that I just dropped,
Yeah.
Well,
I had this as FarCon gets bigger and bigger. I was like, was there a need to do kind of dev-focused ones versus creator-focused ones, and kind of splitting in different tracks? So I want to make a FarCon Creator Con.
That's a good one. Yeah.
I think that would be really fun, but it doesn't have to be at the same time as FarCon. Like, that's what I mean by we can decentralize some of these things too. So that was, but also, we could have during FarHack had something that was a little bit more focused on creators as well. Before we move into why you're actually here, I do want to mention this is from Matcha and Nouns Esports, and you've been involved in Nouns Esports as well for quite some time, right from the beginning. And they have launched as the official partner with Nouns Esports, and I don't have the sound, sorry, but I loved this little announcement video, and this is going to be a lot of fun. If you're not familiar with Nouns Esports, it is an esports team funded by Nouns DAO, and this is going to be taking the Nouns Square as well. So Toady Hawk, friend of the pod, and former guest co-host, who I'm sure at some point will be a guest co-host again, will be doing some. Who's not Adrienne.eth. Literally, she bought him, not Adrienne.eth. He'll be doing a lot of the announcing, which is hilarious because he does not play esports. So this should be really fun. And then there's going to be, you just did, I think there was a matcha tournament that just happened, or matcha cup. Wasn't there something that just happened with, I think that just happened with the esports team. So this should be a really fun thing. that is, a fun partnership. And we, today's show is presented by Matcha. So that just gave me an opportunity to kind of throw that in as well. But let's talk about why you're really here. I get this message like, can I please come on tomorrow? And my response back was, you mean that podcast that you've never watched?
Yeah. The podcast I've never
that
watched.
One? You're like, yeah, that one. Yeah, that's the one. So what's going on, Brennan? Why, what do you have going on later today? Tell us about this.
So this is for the, obviously the documentary is called Shark Pickle Now, our Cone, and we're trying to get we're getting the Stupid Buddy team, potentially Seth Green, supposedly on the docket to show up to this thing, and pretty much just discuss the mint. So they're doing like a live mint drop for the actual trailer / full length movie. So once the movie premieres on May 29th, your trailer Zora mint would actually convert to the full length film. So this is how they're doing the full distribution. It will be, I'm pretty sure it's the first full length documentary put on chain, which is kind of pretty awesome. Global distribution, access for all, none of that other, gatekeeping bullshit. So I think it's a really cool thing. And I think I know the team really wants to hype it up. So we're going to do sort of this like live Q&A fireside chat thing at 4:30 p.m. PST, and hopefully get some really special guests like Seth Green involved. And yeah, kind of just come hang out. So hopefully everyone can just go to the Warpcast or their cast, and they can just RSVP and then also enter into the tavern when it's time. And your profile will be loaded into the tavern app, and you can start listening right away.
I'm going to break this down for those who have no idea what all those words meant. So
fair enough.
So because I understood it completely, because
thank you, Professor.
I'm going to just step by step this thing. First of all, Tavern is an audio platform, audio spaces that you've created. You're Deb, and you've created this very cool thing. There are you'll see frames that announce when different taverns are happening. You can RSVP. You can connect directly through your browser. I found that Chrome seems to work best, but do you have any preference on? Do you have any thoughts on
Chrome
that?
Light, Chrome works. Safari has a few little weird bugs, mostly on mobile, but Chrome seems to work consistently pretty well. And
it's a great platform. So that's what Tavern is. Stepping back to what this documentary is. So this documentary was funded by Nouns. The Stupid Buddy team is the team behind Robot Chicken, as well as the Masked Singer costumes and like all these other, amazing projects that they've done. Seth Green is part of that, the actor, producer, who you may know from many things, including Austin Powers, among many, many things that he's done. But especially if you're, my age or Gen X-ish, you definitely know who he is. So he was a part of this behind the scenes, and the team is amazing. So what this documentary looks at is that they were funded to create a Rose Parade float. And that float, if you don't know what the Rose Parade is, it is something that's been happening since like the early 1900s, I think. And it is a parade where all the floats have to be made with actual natural materials, flowers, seeds, all this. And the Noun sponsored this float. It was amazing. It's a shark, a pickle, and a cone. Hence, Shark Pickle Cone is the name of the documentary. I'll show this in a second. And I actually got to go and put flowers on this float. So I took my son. We went out to Pasadena. This was in 2023, very end of 2022. And New Year's Day, well, the day after, actually, because weird thing. If the Rose Parade, if New Year's Day falls on a Sunday, the parade has to be on a Monday, as does the Rose Bowl, which is the football championship game for college sports. Has to happen on a Monday because of church and horses being at church. And there's a whole thing. Like, this is how far back this parade goes. So we're there on January 2nd. It's amazing. And it's a phenomenal story. And this documentary captures that whole story. Have you seen it yet?
Yeah. So I've seen a draft. Yeah.
Have you?
Really,
and what do you think?
I'll give my critique first. It's too happy. It paints a picture of this beautiful sort of utopian that Nouns creates, because it couldn't do the full arc because they stopped filming when the arbiters came and the arbitrage and the forks and everything that happened in the down moments. So I feel like it would be interesting to have them come back and do an extension one day.
Yeah.
But I think it's a really awesome showcase. But people will feel like, is this real? Like, is
this real life
group? Is this organization? Is the things they fund? Can anybody just come? So it feels it's really good though. The style is really good. I just think it's maybe too happy. You know, you don't have that hero's arc journey, which didn't come until another year of filming later, right?
I honestly think it would be too hard to tell that story. Anybody to understand. Tough. It's hard enough for people in Web3 to understand what the heck happened. It's hard enough for people in Nouns to understand what happened to like tell that story. But I will go with the happy story. I would enjoy that.
It's a great happy story.
I would enjoy the happy story because for me, it was a very happy story. Yeah. I do want to show this one thing since you have Seth on later. This is the selfie he took in an elevator at FarCon, at VCon, not FarCon, at VCon, which is Gary Vaynerchuk and VFriends conference back in the very first one. And that's me right behind him. He's in the mask there. This was not long after COVID. So a lot of people still wearing masks. And I didn't even realize it was him at first. He recognized my Nouns glasses, and nobody at VCon knew what Nouns were.
Who knew what Nouns were? Yeah.
Nobody knew what Nouns were at that point because like they were very focused on VFriends, and he did. And we got into this conversation, and I'm in the elevator with him for like 2 seconds, and then he gets out, and we're still talking through the door, and I'm like, why are you standing on this elevator? I'm like, get off the elevator, you idiot. Talk to Seth Green. So I did. And then gave him a bunch of stickers, a bunch of Nouns stickers. So awesome. Yeah, it was like one of these just really funny moments. So I'm excited that he's going to be on Tavern with you today. That's going to be fun. So I'm going to try and
crossed. It all works out.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. So that's at 4. Did you say 4 o'clock today?
4:30 p.m.
4:30.
EST. Yeah.
4:30 p.m.
PST,
EST.
Sorry,
PST. Yep. So what time is that Eastern?
Yeah.
What are you doing to me?
7:30.
Thank you. Like, don't make me think, Brennan. I can't right now. So this will be a lot of fun. So jump over on Tavern, check it out, and hang there. And I think that is it. What did I forget, Adrienne? Did I catch everything pretty much? Pretty much. I know I forgot. There was a ton of other things to talk about. Oh, I did want to mention this one thing from Ace at Pearl. Ace, we are not CNN. Clearly we are not.
Please no CNN.
Please.
I thought we were friends, Ace.
Yeah, no, please don't ever say that again.
Most insulting thing I've read.
I wasn't insulted, but I was like, let me clarify for you. We prefer the Today Show. We are not that. First of all, we're not that serious, if you haven't noticed. But I did like, I appreciate the shout out, Ace. I do appreciate the shout out, but yeah, we're definitely not CNN. And with that, we'll be back Monday.
We'll be back in 3 hours, actually.
We'll be back in 3 hours. I forgot. We'll be back at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific for a FarCon recap with hopefully Ted. Ted's in Paris, but hopefully we're going to get her. McBain, Heavyweight, Dillstack. Who did I forget? I think that's and us. So we'll be chatting all things FarCon. And and I'm sure we'll have more on the growing controversy of FarCon 2025.
That's
Anything else, Adrienne?
Off tomorrow. Today's our Friday show, so happy Friday.
Happy Friday early.
Back on Monday, but Prof is going to be traveling on Monday. It's the very, very first episode that you will have missed. And I will be driving on my own. God help us all.
I can't wait to be in the chat. I'm really looking forward to it. I am planning to be in the chat with all of y'all and hanging out. And thank you, Brennan, for popping by. I'll see you on Tavern later today, or hear you on Tavern later. Thank you so much for having me.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you for popping by. Now start to actually watch.
Now watch the show. Yeah, this is good.
That'd be a great idea.
I just gotta get up.
don't even have to be there live. We actually record it and we drop it as an NFT. There's many ways to view.
Ooh, spicy.
All right. We'll see you all later. And with that, bye-bye.